I want to talk about the shutdowns and a possible effect of the shutdowns that is unlike any shutdown we have had before, and what it means for federal workers and what it could mean for catastrophes across the federal workforce bleeding down into the rest of the country that can have negative economic consequences and devastating lethal consequences if I think it was to go through, and they aren't to correct their rhetoric very quickly. And I'm not saying this lightly. I'm saying this as a dude who grew up in the DC area, who grew up next to federal employees, who talked to these people during government shutdowns, who watched my own grandparents who raised me, both federal employees, be furloughed as they were waiting for the government to reopen. My grandfather, mind you, he was mandatory. He was a machinist for the Bureau of Engraving and Printing. He made sure the machines that printed the money ran. So if you talk about mandatory jobs holding up the entire world reserve currency, I think that's a mandatory job. I think that's something someone should get paid for, unless somebody else here wants to be the one designing the security strips and running the CNC machines, working as a machinist. Anyway, during those times when you were furloughed and when you were put off, right, you were given back pay. What that meant is you might have to go home and not get paid while everybody in Congress gets paid, and stay home. That's one option. The other option is you stay working, you keep working because your work is considered essential, and you have to keep working if you want to keep your job until the shutdown is over, and then you then get back pay for all that money that you missed out on. And that has been interpreted as the law of the land for the longest time. Now, Donald Trump has started to rephrase this a little bit, has started to move this around a little bit. And he started to do it in a meeting that he had with Mark Carney. Mark Carney being the new leader, the new prime minister of Canada. There was some early kind of scuffles where Donald Trump talked about annexing Canada, going up there and aggressively expanding our territorial borders. He's also thrown this threat towards Greenland. Trump is an expansionist by nature. He wants the prestige. He wants the glory that comes with territorial expansion. But I don't think he wants the negative effects that come with territorial expansion. I think watching what Russia has had to go through for the last almost 4 years is something that could act as a deterrent for somebody like him who might be considering other options. Mind you, of course, you would need Congress's vote to invade Canada. You can't just say, AUMF, they're terrorists, and invade. And getting Donald Trump to delude himself into thinking it's a good idea is one thing. Getting all of the House and the Senate to go along with it is another. So anyway, they meet. They're supposed to be talking trade deals. They're supposed to be talking a whole bunch of things. But during the press conference, when he was going back and forth with the press, a reporter asked Donald Trump, is it the White House position that furloughed workers should be paid their back pay? So basically paid in full for the work they do, i.e. if you go to work, not if you go home, not if you go home and do nothing, and they just say, sorry, there's nothing for you right now, you have to go home and do nothing. But if you go to work and you work, and mind you, Donald Trump had the longest government shutdown of any president in history for 35 days. The business standard, the line has always been the way business has worked is always that they get their back pay. They work without pay for the time being, but don't worry, don't be angry. Please don't call all of your sick days at once, TSA workers. Please don't call all of your days off now so you can go work Uber or so you can go just spend time with your family. Please come into work. You'll get paid after. That's money in your pocket tomorrow. Now, federal workers get paid every 2 weeks. So far, we've been at a week. We're about to finish the 2-week mark at the end of this week. And that would be when the first check should be going home to federal workers, and it won't be. And it won't be. So the question here is, and this wasn't really even a question before Donald Trump made it a question. The question is, will they be given their back pay? Every single U.S. president that has gone through a shutdown has given the federal employees back pay. Both because it's like obviously the right thing to do if they're going to serve the country in a moment where their future employment and their pay and their family security is thrown up into the air, they should be compensated for their labor. No person should ever work for free. A man is deserving of the fruits of their own labor. That is true for the private sector, and that is true for federal employees who have to deal in the TSA lines, who have to deal in national parks, who have to deal with tax collection, who have to deal with keeping the lights on, who have to deal with law enforcement. And Donald Trump suggests that not all of them do actually need to get pay, which was the standard for every single U.S. president before him. He says that only the ones he wants to give pay need to get pay.
No,
Is it the White House's position that furloughed workers should be paid for their back pay?
I would say it depends on who we're talking about. I can tell you this, the Democrats have put a lot of people in great risk and jeopardy, but it really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way. Okay? Thank you.
We're going to take care of our people. There's some that are not deserving of being taken care of. We're going to take care of them in a different way. Mind you, it was back pay for furlough work. This isn't, hey, you know those non-essential workers that were sent home that were declaring non-essential? We're actually going to lay them off. That's not what he's talking about. He's talking about people right now working, digging holes somewhere, filing paperwork, dealing with annoying people at the airport, making sure people are safe, working in law enforcement. Some of them might get back pay, some of them won't. It's limbo. Maybe you'll get pay for the work you're doing right now. Maybe you won't get pay for the work you're doing right now. Now, mind you, the way of the law of the land is that you have to give them back pay. People cannot work for free. If Congress is getting paid through a shutdown, why is it that the people who actually do work that might throw their back out for a living, who have actually dedicated themselves to public service, not for fame or attention or power, but through a managerial role or through a middling role, some role that keeps the gears functioning? Why is it that their pay is on the chopping block, but the pay of the Congress people who actually caused the government shutdown is not on the chopping block? I haven't heard of any proposal from Donald Trump that, hey, we're going to suspend congressional pay until the shutdown is over. Or, hey, we're going to actually suspend congressional pay until XYZ. Nothing. But when it comes to suspending the pay of those who continue to work without pay as their families have to figure out how they're going to make ends meet, as they start thinking about visiting the food kitchen and going and get like, oh, let's go to the food bank. Maybe we have to go to the food kitchen. Maybe we have to take extra time. When I come home, I'll take some Uber rides so we can make ends meet. And we send those people the message, oh, you know all those sacrifices you're making right now? It might be for literally nothing. Serve the country and you'll get screwed. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? We'll take care of our people. Better hope you're our people. This is how a mafia don talks. This is not how the president of the United States talks. They're all your people. They're all Americans who are working for the federal government. Every single one of them, by definition, is your people. You are the federal executive, the chief of the executive branch. By their very nature, they are all your people. But he doesn't mean that. He's picking and choosing who really is his people, who are the ones he needs to give back pay. Even if somebody's job is a ditch digger, their job is to go in the middle of the Arizona desert and just dig a hole for no reason. They said, go to China, good luck. And he gets paid $20 a day. Doesn't matter how much pay. He goes out there to dig that hole. If he's doing that right now, if he is spending time in his life that he could have spent with his wife, husband, children, extended family, friends, relaxing, going to religious services, vacationing, enjoying his life. That he instead went out, did his job. He's now going to be told to fuck off. And the reason I use the ditch digging example is it doesn't matter if their job is literally worthless to federal functioning. If they are working right now on principle, a man should never work for nothing. Especially if he was guaranteed by contract pay before. And they were all told, don't worry, because federal workers are told this during shutdowns. Don't worry. If you're furloughed, you will get back pay. It's one of the pitches that are made to federal workers when they're thinking, oh, should I work federal? Should I work private? Private's got this pay structure. And, I saw there was a shutdown during Trump's last term. That was 35 days. If we get paid every 2 weeks, am I going to miss 2 paychecks? No, don't worry about it. If you work during a government shutdown, you will get back pay. Mind you, not getting your payment when you're scheduled to get your payment is already difficulty enough. But apparently, that's still not enough. Now, the justification as to why Donald Trump is saying this is that in their mind, they have found that some of the people who call themselves legal analysts have said that there's actually a provision by which the president doesn't have to give them any pay whatsoever. Number one, most legal analysts don't agree with that. But let's say that it's true. Let's say, those legal analysts were wrong. This legal analyst they found is correct. Who cares? That would still be up to the discretion of the federal government. That would still be up to the discretion of the president. That would still be up to the discretion of Congress, people like Mike Johnson, people like Senate Majority Leader Thune, to make sure that they get their back pay. And so don't use digging through the ditches and trying to go through the old files, cleaning the dust off of old laws, try to find some way where you can screw workers out of well-deserved pay and then pretend as if the law itself is the shield. As, oh, maybe we have to do it. Who knows? Don't have to. All the more reason to end the shutdown. As if it's a threat. Not only are we threatening that we could fire people, which is already questionably legal, during a shutdown, do mass firings not foreseen by Congress, not reviewed by Congress during a federal shutdown, but we can choose who will work for us for free during a federal shutdown. We will choose to steal the meals out of your children's mouths because you chose the stupid decision to serve this country. That's the message that's being sent. I mean, listen to how laissez-faire he is about that. How casual this is when talking about taking the food out of people's mouths who have worked for it.
To the whether the furloughed civilian employees of the federal government will receive back pay, it is true that in previous shutdowns, many or most of them have been paid for the time that they were furloughed. But there is new legal analysis. I don't know the details. I just saw a headline this morning. I'm not read in on it, and I haven't.
He can't defend it. Listen to him. Listen to him speak. This is the Speaker of the House, and he's talking about the people who make the entire government actually function, not the people who create the gridlock at the top, people like himself, Congress people, but the people who actually make that entire bureaucracy function when they pass down laws and and want this continuation of government. And he's talking about their ability to have a house, to make that mortgage payment, to pay that medical bill, to pay for their children's after-school care, to make that car payment, to pay that grocery bill, to have a night out on the town with your better half. To have the things all people should have, the ability to afford. And when we talk about those who work for the federal government, we're talking about the people who we're saying, oh, they're under our care. They're under the federal government's care. And what are we saying? We do not care. You're using their pay, their salary, their ability to feed their kids as a political pawn. The whole point of politics is like serve the American people, serve the American constituency. Go out there and make sure that people are represented, make sure that the people, are well treated. And the people who make that whole system function They're throwing out like, well, in order to pressure the Democrats, how about we just make it so the government doesn't work? Let's just make it so it's as unappealing as possible to work as a federal employee. You know, people are already calling out of TSA sick. And something like this could have a demonstrably catastrophic impact on hiring of new employees for air traffic control. And by the way, we have air traffic control towers that are going down for like 5, 6, 7 hours a day right now. We have massive flight backlogs, and not the triple digits, not 4 digits, in the 5 digits. You got flight backlogs, delayed flight after delayed flight. The TSA workers that are there, they're understaffed. People are calling in sick. And this guy, while throwing out the idea that those people might not get paid, he can't even do the due diligence when talking about feeding somebody else's children. Oh, did I read the article? Oh, did I read the legal analysis? Did I look anywhere past the headline that would give me more leverage to terrorize the federal workforce as a cudgel against Democrats? Because we shut down the government? Because Congress shut down the government, the people who most directly immediately suffer from that shutdown, we're going to make it so that suffering is measured in their inability to afford their standard of living. And he can't even read the goddamn article. Can't even read the article. I read a headline. There's some new legal analysis. God damn, man. Imagine if he was around when the tobacco industry was throwing out studies and shit. Well, you know, they say that these cigarettes cause cancer, but now they have these new cigarettes, and they've got this filter, you know, and it's quite nice. Maybe it's I saw a study. I didn't really see the study. I saw a headline. Headline said maybe, it doesn't. These are people's livelihoods. People have been working for 10, 20, 30, 40 years in the federal government, hoping that this will be their pathway towards stability in their retirement. But if it's not even a pathway to stability while you're working for them, how are you going to attract people to the federal workforce? How are you going to convince people to start working for these air traffic control towers if not even they lose their pay? Let's say they get back pay, but somebody else doesn't. The standard of somebody not getting back pay is going to incentivize people for government shutdowns just stay home, as well as to just fucking quit. Because if somebody's looking at it like, look, I'm going to have to deal with the fact that I'm not getting paid for the next 2 to 4 weeks. There's already instances where people call off sick to go work Uber because that 2-week time frame, they need that money to feed their kids. They need that money for aftercare. They need that money for the car payment. So they will call in sick TSA workers during these shutdowns so they can go work Uber, so they can go work Lyft, so they can go do DoorDash because of Congress's ineptitude. And so what we're trying to do is expand that, make that systematic, that every federal employee has to know how to DoorDash at the drop of the hat in case the federal government goes kablam again, because we're scared of giving them back pay, or because in this one moment where he just wants that little bit more leverage against Democrats, he doesn't even realize what he's saying or doing. Look, people who work as a Fed, whether you're working in the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, whether you're working in some form of law enforcement, whether you're working in some sort of natural preservation, I don't know, you're working at a presidential library, I have no clue. Whatever it is. This will lead to people taking time off and calling in more sick days during these shutdowns, and it will lead to other people no longer considering the federal workforce as an option. People have been calling in sick right now. People do this every shutdown. And the reason people do it is so if they're not getting paid, they might as well spend time with their families or find some other work. But if you expect anybody to show up to work, you cannot expect them to work for free. Okay? They're not slaves. They're TSA Okay? They're law enforcement. They're all sorts of different federal employees. They do not work for free. On principle, they should not work for free. On top of the fact, by law, they do not work for free. And mind you, Trump has had the longest government shutdown in history on his record, 35 days first term. What if it's anything like that this time? We're already about to end 2 weeks. The first paycheck for these workers is supposed to be coming up next Monday. And I got a bunch of locals from my neighborhood who are blowing up my phone, pissed. Many of them considering, even though they are essential, whether they should just screw off. And when this was said today, I can tell you at least 2 of them, and I only spoke to 5, thought about quitting. They said, why would we work if we don't know we're going to get back pay? Not only this time, but the next time. Should I have to be worried that at the drop of the hat, if Congress can't get along, I'm just going to be an indentured servant for the state for who knows how long? Hell, what if Trump breaks his record? Right now, we're in a situation where both sides want to dig in deep. The Republicans, they think the Democrats, by making these healthcare demands on extending the tax credits in order to bring down premium costs that are spiking already and are going to continue to spike, that if they blame that for the shutdown, saying we should just do a clean CR, a clean bill. That's the fault of the shutdown. Of course, Democrats are saying, they did it because they don't want to address the healthcare needs of the American people and they've gone too far. Ultimately, if you are a federal worker and you're looking at that, your conclusion can be the Republicans don't want to back down because they would have cut, if they didn't want to make these cuts, they wouldn't have cut it in the big, beautiful bill in the first place. And the Democrats right now are polling better than the Republicans. The Republicans are getting the majority of the blame for the shutdown. And when I say majority of the blame, the best numbers I saw for Republicans was they get a 7-point blame, as in they're 7 points blamed more than the Democrats for the shutdown. The highest numbers I saw that were reputable were between 15 and 17. 15 and 17. So the Democrats see that situation, and they know that 75% of Americans agree with them on extending the healthcare subsidies. Hell, Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people, after speaking to her constituents and realizing how much is going to increase the premiums for her neighborhood, even saying it was going to increase her children's premiums. She said she is in support for the ACA tax credit extension. But hey, don't worry. Mike Johnson's not in no hurry. He says that these insurance companies will be sending out notices in early November. It's October. We have a month. Well, actually, we don't have a month. We have 3 weeks. But that's forever. 3 weeks. Is he deluded? Is he crazy? No. He just doesn't want to make the extension. He doesn't want to do the ACA extension. If they wanted to do the ACA extension, they wouldn't have cut it in the first place. And when I say they're digging in deeper, here's Angus King. This is one of the 3 senators who caucused with the Democrats, 2 Democrats, 1 independent. He's the independent. He was the one person who voted for the Republicans' clean CR, the continuing resolution that would have kicked the can down to November 21st. He is now saying that he is contemplating changing his vote and voting no. The Republicans are saying that they're working around the clock to get more Democrats on the vote, and they're losing the votes that they already got right now.
I'm contemplating changing my vote unless the Republicans are more forthcoming about dealing with the ACA problem. The best we got was last Friday when the leader said he was open to conversations. That's not good enough. We need to deal with this problem. We need some assurance that they will deal with this problem. And so far, that hasn't been forthcoming.
So tomorrow, you're not sure tomorrow how you vote?
I'm making my decision on a day-to-day basis based upon what I'm told. I think this is something that the president ought to be paying attention to because he's going to be facing huge premium increases all over the country in about 3 weeks. And when I'm saying huge, I mean in the tens of thousands of dollars to middle-income people. So that's why I think we've got to deal with this. And I was in the expectation that there would be some more forthcoming assurances about dealing with this issue, and it just hasn't happened yet.
No assurances in private, as Angus King is saying, and they certainly haven't made any assurances in public. The only thing Republicans keep saying is we can negotiate this down the line. They won't say what they'll negotiate. They don't throw out a starting position to send out a signal that, maybe we can get something close to what the Democrats are asking for or some middle ground, just that they'll negotiate. But Donald Trump, the negotiator in chief, Mr. Art of the Deal, has never been a man to actually sit down and make a deal with Democrats. That has been something he's been terrible at. Joe Biden, the old suit in the game of politics much longer than him, with the much more orthodox approaches, was able to make much more bipartisan pieces of legislation, whether it's the infrastructure bill or otherwise, in passing during his administration. So I don't think Donald Trump is particularly good at reaching across the aisle. And this is not to say that this lockdown is going to last forever. Okay? Lockdowns come and go. This one will too. The question is, who's going to cave first? Is it going to be the Republicans with the mounting pressure as they control all chambers of government and blame is being thrown at them, and the issue that's being discussed on healthcare is a loser for them? Or is it going to be the Democrats who are the ones who didn't vote for the clean CR, and maybe the Republicans in the messaging battle of the messages could get that out there down the line and XYZ, or maybe they threaten to fire workers and it actually works, even though Hakeem Jeffries doesn't seem cordial on that.
Time to call a crackhead to fix the government.
Yo, if you get a bunch of crackheads, 450 crackheads in there, and you say to get out of this room, you need to pass a budget, and then you can get The Rock, which is on the president's desk once you were finished, you will have a bill within 24 hours. Now, is it bad that I believe crackheads would probably be better at this than our elected officials at this moment? No. No, that is not good. But that's just put us in the position that we're in. That's just to be honest about where we are right now. So this shutdown could last and break Donald Trump's record of 35 days. And so let me ask you this. You're a federal worker. The president just suggested that you may or may not be paid back pay, and there is no end in sight. No end in sight to the shutdown. Could last a month, could break records and last 2 months when you're supposed to be paid every 2 weeks. What do? Well, some are going to call in sick and go work Uber, go work DoorDash, go work Uber Eats to try to make ends meet with their family, call in their sick days and use them. But the problem is, if you're, for example, air traffic control, after 3 sick days, you have to bring in a doctor's note. So at some point, even if somebody just wanted to kind of cruise outside the system until it was back on track, knowing that they would be compensated for their labor as they should be, there are systems in place to catch you. It could last a year. It won't last a year. It won't last a year. But I wouldn't be surprised if it broke records. And so if that's what you're facing down, quitting is a reasonable option. Not because you don't love your country or you didn't want to continue with your service or you don't care about the burden and the importance of the job of air traffic control and keeping people safe and alive. I mean, there's already such a huge understaffing issue, and of course it would weigh on your conscience. One last person at air traffic control means more work for the person next to your cubicle, next to you in the tower, in the air traffic control tower. So I'm sure there are counterweights pulling people back towards service. But at the end of the day, if you get between people and feeding their kids, they will go around you or they will leave to somewhere where they care and feed their kids. And you're either going to have a giant escalation and people calling off sick and seeing if they can get away with it. And so during the shutdown, a lack of participation in essential workers that we need, like those who work at TSA, or mass quits. People are going to quit. People are going to resign because they need to make money. Because this is the United States of America, and we know how housing prices are. We know how healthcare prices are. We know how grocery prices are. And if America cannot even properly pay the sons that most directly serve her, then America is sick. Sick, sick, sick. Political system is. to use these people's families as pawns in this negotiation makes me want to say TOS things.